safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we're taking the quest. Join Tarsha on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey Podcast. I am your host, Tarsha Smith, and thank you so much for joining us on yet another journey. I am very excited to have in the building today Kendal Richardson. Hi, Kendal.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We just had a few storms here in Dallas. Other than that, I'm okay.
Glad to hear it. I'm going to dive right in because your story is interesting. I'm going to dive right in. I
Yeah.
want to know, how old were you? Oh, let me back up. Let the people know, what is your relationship to adoption? Are you an adoptee, adopted parent? What is your relationship?
Yeah, I'm an adoptee. Um, but I didn't find out until I was 23.
Okay.
So I didn't know
23.
anything until I was 23 years old. So it was a shock.
Okay. So let me rewind a little bit here. So you're going through life, and as far as you are concerned, you are with your biological family.
Correct. Period.
So how is life growing up?
I've had some issues with, molestation and going through different traumas in my life.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are good parents. They were strict, of course, and of course my mom was the one that taught me how to pray and believe in Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
My family's rooted into at least going to church. The traditional means of going to
Love
church.
that you did that.
Later in life, I found out that it's actually a relationship with God, having a personal relationship. It just isn't just going to church,
Absolutely.
Sunday school, and
Absolutely. Doing all
vacation
the
Bible
things.
school, and all
Yeah.
of these things that were traditional. But I went through so many things that I really found out who God was for myself. When my back was really against the wall, when I couldn't go to my parents, I couldn't go to my friends, I couldn't go to anybody. I just gave everything that I was going through to God. So I went through a lot. My life is definitely a story. It's definitely been a journey. Um, but it was really a shock because I tell it all the time. I used to make fun of the people on Maury when they say you are not
You are
the
not the
father, and I just
father.
be laughing like how people don't know who they slept with, that they know who it is, and da 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 da. But
Yeah.
after all, I was one of those people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do what are give me the series of events that lead up to you finding out that you're actually adopted at 23.
Well, it was just simply like this. My cousin and I were in the kitchen, and she was just talk we were just talking, and she
Mm-hmm.
said, "Do you know that you were adopted?" I said, "What?"
I'm sorry, what? Right.
I was adopted. I said, "You got to be playing." She said, "No, I'm telling you the truth. You're adopted." So I called my mom, hollering and
Wait, hold on,
screaming at her.
hold on. I gotta ask, what made the cousin just say this? Do you know the answer to that question?
I guess she wanted me to know the truth.
Okay.
I don't know what prompted her that day to tell me, but I guess
I
she wanted me to know the truth.
and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I asked that question, because I've talked to other late discovery adoptees, and I have heard that family members knew, but nobody said anything because they said it's not my place to tell. So I think it's interesting that a cousin stepped in and said, "Do you know?"
Yeah, but when I had asked my grandmother about it, and she wouldn't say anything. All she kept saying is, "Ask your mother. Ask your mother." She felt
Now,
like it
this is
was my
after the cousin said,
yeah. Like a
"Yeah,
couple years later, I just decided to ask my grandmother about it, and she said, "Ask your mother. Ask your mother." She said, "You need to ask your mother."
so it took you a couple years to even ask anybody?"
My grandmother, I would ask different people in the family different things, but everybody has a different story. So I don't know which one was true. So of course I thought grandma would, tell me the truth, but she said you need to ask your mother. But I had been
Right.
asking my parents for a long time, and I don't understand why my mother gets so upset. She gets very, very upset when I ask her or talk to her about it. And I don't understand why she gets so upset. I
Okay,
don't.
so okay, I'm thinking like our listeners are probably thinking. Okay, so your cousin tells you this.
Hmm.
Uh, do you call? Who's the next person that you call? I know you said you
My
spoke to your
mom,
grandmother, your
my
mom.
mom.
Okay,
And I'm
tell me about
hollering and
that
screaming at her.
conversation.
She left work and she came home.
Yeah,
She was very mad with my cousin for
I know.
telling me, but I was grateful that my cousin told me the truth. And
Right.
me and my cousin has that type of relationship that we could talk. If anybody in the family, I can trust her and talk to her about anything because she was the only one that was willing to tell me the truth about me. I don't know what prompted her. And matter of fact, I need to ask her what really
Yeah.
prompted her. I need to really ask her
Ask her.
what prompted her that day to just come out and say it. Well, no, it's so also too. I think I don't know, the family structure back then was has a lot of secrets because another same situation. I don't know what this thing is about being in the kitchen with me. So my brother, one day out of the blue says, "Don't you know you have a brother?" I said, "Huh?" He
Now, is
said,
this after the adoption conversation or before?
"Yeah." This was I found out that I had a brother before I found out that I was adopted, but this was my dad's son that he had, and
Another child that he
another
had.
child. But I never knew that my parents had my dad had another son. I never, nope, they didn't say anything. I think I was like 15 or 16 when I found out that.
Right. They weren't gonna say nothing.
And they were
Yeah.
never going to say anything.
Say
And
anything.
so I'm the one that helped my dad and his son get reconnected back together.
Mm,
Actually, I helped that situation because I went to my aunt. She got his information because at the time he was in the service. He was in the Navy. And so I wrote him and I actually got them back together in a relationship. So
that's
I got a niece and nephew. I've gotten them back
that's
together.
wild.
And then I
Okay, well,
and I
hold on.
was like,
I gotta pull you back. Hold
okay,
on,
okay.
friend. I gotta pull you back, friend. Okay, so let me. Okay, so you have this. You find out you have this brother outside. Your father has this other son. Then you find out a little later on that you're adopted, and
Right.
you are upset with your mama. She is upset with your cousin. What
Yes.
does mama say to you
Um,
in this moment,
you
or
know,
whenever you all talk?
what I have to actually think and realize is that when I started to think back on it, when I was young, I didn't have no baby pictures. I didn't
Mm,
have any.
yeah. What's the earliest picture you have of yourself? How young? The earliest picture is a couple months, 4 months, 5 months.
So nothing. And I didn't
Oh,
really
no
realize
baby
that.
pictures.
And so I had asked my mom one day why I don't have it. She told me it was burnt up in the fire in New York where we were. But she told me she don't remember ever telling me that. But that was the story of what she had said they had burnt up. And I thought about that. All those things started coming back because I didn't
Yeah.
have any baby picture. I've got pictures of me maybe like three, four, and five, but
Hmm.
nothing before that. I don't have no baby pictures.
So, do you know how old you were when they adopted you, or have they?
No.
They
So
didn't tell
I
you nothing.
nothing. Zero zilch. I had to find everything out on my own. I wrote the
Uh-huh.
hospital.
Let's go. Yeah. What did you do?
I wrote the Harlem Hospital. and they sent me my original birth certificate,
Okay.
and they sent me the vital records, sent me my mother's name and where she was. And I heard that in the 70s, this is what I heard, that if you weren't married then, they didn't put the father's name on the birth certificate.
For the most part, yeah. Hmm.
So I don't even know who my dad is, but I have
Okay, hold on. What you just said was real interesting. The fact that they gave you so much information. And was this a closed adopt? Yeah, it's the
yeah, it was
'70s.
a
It's
closed
probably a
adoption.
closed adoption.
I had my mom was like, "Well, just go and do the research yourself."
Well, why
And I
couldn't you?
did. I don't know
I
what
know you
I
don't
don't
have the answer to that.
I
That it,
don't have it, but I know that
no, you don't.
it was a adoption agency in Brooklyn called Talbot Perkins, right?
Okay.
So when I found that out, I went to try to see what I could find out, but I think I was like 4 years too late for the agency closed down after all those years that it I just might have missed it in the years that I was actually looking.
This is wild. Okay, hold on. I gotta ask you this because you have your original birth certificate. Is your
Yeah.
name different? Were you named
This
something
my last
else?
name is different.
First name
And
stayed the same.
they took off my middle name, but my first name has always been Kendall. My middle name is Dwayne, and my biological last name was Griffin.
Okay.
They when they changed it, it just was Kendal Richardson. I don't know the circumstances behind the adoption, but I did talk to my one of my other cousins, and she told me that um, you know how little kids be listening through the thing when
Mm-hmm.
the grown folks are talking.
Yeah, they and they think we in there playing and we listening.
Right. She said something about that they used to use me as an ashtray when they used to put cigarette butts out of me as a baby. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to protect what has actually happened to me, but I'm grown now to be able to understand something about me. And I tell people this all the time that argue and fight and fuss with their parents. I
I
don't know
think
who I
it's
look like.
that's okay. Hold on. That's interesting because you said that it's rumored that there was some abuse involved when you were a baby,
Yes.
but and you just said early on you dealt with some abuse and
Yes.
some molestation,
Yes.
and so the and this was while under the at this point you're adopted and you're with at what you thought at that time was your biological family.
Right.
That behavior or whatever that was, I think there's something to be said there. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something. There's a
I look at it as you know, I'm an author, so I wrote a book. So I equated it to Moses, who had to be pushed up the stream, and then he was found by um, the daughter of the king at the time,
hmm
and she adopted him. But I believe that my life is similar, that I had to be pushed somewhere else for a better life. So now what I'm doing is going back to being able to help other people just like Moses was able to do. And that's what I equate my life like. I just don't know who I look like. That's been a big well, whoever they were, they're handsome, you know. Whoever
whoever they
they
were. I
are,
know that's right.
they had to be very well, but I don't. And I tell people all the time, you're fighting with someone that you see and you know, but I don't have that same story to be able to say, well, this is who I look like. This is
Okay,
who.
so you get your original birth certificate. You
Hmm.
have this little bit of information. You even have
Right.
a name. You have your birth mother's name,
Yeah, I do.
and they gave you an address as well.
Yes. And I'm
So
from
what
New
do you
York,
do with
so I
this
went to go
information?
look back, but
All right.
it must have been some projects back in the day, but I don't think it's the same. They must have tore it down or. it's no longer, the address might have changed somewhere along the line. It's not the.
Okay. It's not
I
what's
went to
on your
look.
paperwork.
You know me. I'm an investigator too. So somebody told me, I joined some of the adoption groups and things on Facebook at one time.
Mhm.
I was trying to work with some of the people before Hillary Clinton became the Secretary of State. She was the senator in New York. And they
Okay.
were trying to, and she was going to work on it, but she became the Secretary of State. But she was supposed to be helping to change the law that closed adoptions can find out their records. That's what they were trying to push in New York for the closed adoptions because of health reasons. You know,
Mhm.
you want to find out your history and find out things that they were using to base that off of. But because she became the Secretary of State, it just never
It's dead in the water.
just stayed right there. But
Mhm.
I feel the same way that after a certain age, you should be, the closed adoption should be able to be opened.
Absolutely, because our identity should not just be like it's not a privilege, it's a right. Like we have the
Right,
right to know who we are, period. I'm sorry
right,
that whatever you did with whomever you did with back in the day is now my story too, and I have a right to it. And I have a right to know.
right,
That's
right.
I totally agree with you. And so you have her name. Did you look her up by name or do any kind
Her
of
name is
research?
Barbara Ann Griffin. Do you know how many Barbara Ann Griffins there are?
Listen, yeah, that's real common.
Right.
If that's even her name, there's that. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they falsify those documents.
Then, like trying to talk to my mom about certain things, and she'll give me like bits and pieces. She was like,
Well, what's
"Well,
the
your
bits and
dad,"
pieces that she gave you? Let's see if we can piece something together. What she
like
tell
she
you?
kept saying that my biological father um fought the adoption, and
Okay.
he fought it all the way into the final day, but the last day he never showed up. But she said he was like a person that seems to always had got in trouble, but he was the one that fought the adoption the entire time. And I'm thinking, well, how you know that? But you can't tell me nothing about the adoption. You can't tell me who they are. You can't tell me anything, but you could tell me these little bits and pieces that um I don't know. I don't know.
It
I don't know. I
sounds
don't even
like,
know what to say.
yeah, it sounds like there's some trauma for her behind that, having adopted you and then probably having to fight to keep you, whatever that scenario is. And also the fact that a man, black man at that, in the 70s fighting for adoption for the most part, that was unheard of. The answer was typically like, no, we're not giving you this baby.
Right.
So that all by itself is interesting. What about a DNA test? Taken, have you done that?
No, I did the little what do you call it? The swab testing for the, what do you call it? The
And the 23andMe or
ancestry.
Ancestry? Okay.
So they came back and said that I'm 90% Congo.
Okay. What about your matches? Did you have any cousins or
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but it didn't. It just it was like even some second cousins. And what was really weird was it was some African people with Spanish names.
hmm, that is
So
interesting.
I think they were looking for some people, and they hadn't even been able to talk to their own parents in the ancestry. Some of them have like some of the same similar stories, so nobody really was able
Right.
to piece together.
Wow. And what was your closest match? Do you remember? Was it the second or
The
did it
second
say I
cousin,
know okay, the second cousin.
and she was an African woman with a Spanish name.
And she
She didn't
couldn't
look Spanish to me. Well, I thought that the person might have been Spanish as a Spanish name, but no, she was. straight African.
Do you happen to know where she was located? Was she also in New York?
I think, if I could remember, I think she might have been, and she was supposed to be finding some information out, but that's if she was able to find her father. Because I think it was some stuff
Okay,
on
she
his side
looking
of the
too.
family. Yeah, she was looking for
Got
some stuff
you.
too.
Man, man. Okay. So
So
mama
it,
is
it
not
it's
talking.
a mystery. It is.
It's a
It's
whole
really a
mystery.
mystery. But I really I have hopes because what is really crazy. This is a real crazy story, and I said only God can do something like this. I was
Mm-hmm.
living in Atlanta maybe 15 years ago, and I was going to this church, and the administrator of the church had adopted sisters. She
Okay.
adopted two girls. So it was an apartment complex that was right next door to the church. So this family moves in and they start coming to the church. And so, when they give their little tithes and offering, they put their name on it. So
Mm-hmm.
the administrator kept saying the last name really sound familiar to her. And coming to find out, what is the chances of someone that the administrator lives nowhere near the church? She lives far from the church.
Mm-hmm.
She used to drive into Atlanta, but she used to live on the outside. So she adopted these two girls. How about it was the biological grandparents that moved right next door in the complex to them? So
Mm,
it connected their whole entire family. How do you adopt the biological grandchildren of the grandparents that moved right next door to the church?
wow.
So I
Wow.
was like, so that brought in the real mother, other
Yeah.
aunts, uncles. It brought in the grandparents, sisters, um, and their whole entire family ended up started coming to church. And I said, God, now I know that this is, you know, it's stuff like that. I said, wait a minute now.
Right.
Yeah, is it? It could be that easy that
Could be.
it just like that. And it was it that also gave me some hope because how in the world does the grandparents of the two adopted children move in next door to the church that she happens to go to that church?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. And it could be. It literally could be because who are we to question? God can do whatever He wants, however He wants, whenever He wants. So it literally could happen like that. I've even talked to people where she was working with her own biological grandmother and did not know it until she found her people and realized she's been working with her biological grandmother. Stuff
Wow.
like that happens. It does. It happens. It literally happens. So what I I'm still stuck on your mom though, holding all
Yeah,
this
you got to pray for
information.
her. You got to pray
Oh
for her
yeah,
because
pray because she's not giving
because
us
I'm and
nothing.
and I'm trying to saying, Lord, you're gonna have to. She's gonna have to say something. I don't want it to be like nearly when she's done kicked the bucket to say something. Because at the end, some people do that because my grandmother sure told some of the truth before she got up out of here.
But what about your dad? Is he still?
My dad said, "Don't ask your mother no more. Just if you got any questions, ask me." But my
What did he
dad put
say?
it like this one day, and I never asked him again. He
Okay.
said, "Kendall, let me tell you this, and I'm going to just tell you this one thing. Just be glad that you were born." And when he said that, I never said anything else again. He just said, just be glad that you were born.
Can I
And I
address
never
that?
asked anything after that.
Do I have permission to address that?
Yes.
Okay. As we all are glad to be born, but what I need adoptive parents to understand, for the most part, we are not trying to replace you.
Right.
We really want to know who we are because we understand there's a whole family out there of people that we look like, who we act like.
Right.
We get that DNA, those some of these little things that we do that we get from. We have medical history, all of that, and we don't know any of it until we go looking for it. And it sounds harsh, but I also need adoptive parents to understand this has nothing to do with you. You didn't
Right.
do anything wrong. We love you. It's my testimony is I had a great childhood. Then that I'm not one of those adoptees that had a bad life, bad adoptive parents, bad adoptive family. That's not my testimony. I had a good life, but it never took away that curiosity.
Right. Absolutely.
And now that I've walked the path not once but twice because I have found both sides of my family, it's something about being complete. It's something
Absolutely.
about knowing. It's something about being able to look at the family tree and know those last names. And another reason why it's good to know because what you don't want to do is end up dating your people because you don't know your people. There's
And I
that.
was I just was about to say that because Kendall was very promiscuous, so I don't know if who I could, and I
Ooh,
say that all the time, even when I go to the family reunions now, I
yeah.
be like, that I don't know nobody that, and it was almost that in the family, I actually is one of the cousins. We hung in the same circles, but never met, but we were that close into proximity and not
Mm-hmm.
even know it until a
Mm,
family reunion. But we hung around the same people,
mm-hmm.
but just never met there, but
Right.
in the family. So it is
Mm-hmm.
real close. I had a friend that was working at the he was working at a hotel, and somebody came and they started talking or whatever, but the last name sounded familiar to that person, so he went and asked his mother who this person is, and she said, "That's my cousin."
Right. See,
And then you almost was going to get involved with
with your people,
your
right?
people.
Your people.
That's how, like, bits and pieces that God would show me how close. You don't
And
never
that's it.
know,
You never know. You don't know.
and I
You
probably
don't
could
know.
have,
Let me ask you this: when your father gave you that answer, and you said you never asked again, why? Why did you just drop it?
because I felt like a part of that is true. I'm glad that I was actually born
Yeah.
because
Sure.
it could have been something else. I could have been killed, murdered. I could have been any of those stories, but I know that now that it's a purpose. And I'm not even mad with my biological parents at all. I'm not mad with them at all because I know that they're human, and I know that there was some choices that were made and maybe needed to be made. I don't know their circumstances. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't judge them in that way, but
Mm-hmm.
in that instance, to them, I'm grateful that God used them as a vessel to get me here.
Sure.
So that's the part of the glad that I was born, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. So I'm glad for that, but I'm not angry with them. I just want to know who they are.
Absolutely. It's really that simple.
Just that simple. I
It's
just want
really
to
that
know who they
simple.
are.
And I need, sometimes adoptive parents they feel threatened. There's a lot to that, and unfortunately, especially for some of the older generation, because when they adopted us, one it was just like, here's your baby, here's your clean slate, the end. They were
Right,
able to erase all the things and start fresh. No one prepared them for this part of it. So now
right,
years later, they don't not equipped to deal with it, or they just have to figure out how to deal with it. And some of them have done a good job, some of them not so much.
right.
And so
Absolutely.
that's the point that I pray that your parents can get to understand. Whatever you find out about you when you, because you're going to find out. I'm speaking it. You are going to find out. all the pieces, good, bad, ugly, all of it, because it makes you who you are. And I want them to know that you're not replacing them. It's
Yeah,
just
I
you
told
need
him
to
that.
make that full
Where you
circle.
think I'm going? I don't know
Right,
nobody else. So
right.
like,
Well,
are you
you
really,
might, and you know what?
even if I do find them, I'm not going, you're still
You're
gonna be
not
my
going.
parents.
Absolutely. And you might gain some relationships out of it. You might. But that's still not going to take the place of what you already have. It'll just
Right,
be something different, something new people. Just, you don't know where the chips may fall when you find these people. That's what I say. And let the chips fall where they may. But most importantly, medical history and
right.
knowing these people's last names so I'm not dating my people.
Yeah, because like, I'm coming to find out like my dad is dealing with, now with prostate cancer, right? But he didn't know that it was his brother had dealt with it privately. And all when he finally started talking, it through the whole history, all the cousins, all the male cousins on that side of the family dealt with it. So,
You see
even
stuff
talking
like that. You're privileged to know when you're with your biological family.
right,
And that's the picture I need people to understand because people take that for granted because they
right,
just know. And then there's,
right.
and then here we are. I want to ask you a question. When you found out at 23 that you were adopted, I know that you said that you were, yelling and angry and everything. Did you feel betrayed, like you have been lied to your whole life?
Yeah, my whole life. Like now, who am I really? Cause I'm not who you told me I was. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, I'm Kendall Richardson, but
But who am I for
I'm a
real?
whole nother person.
So at 23, because I know at 23 is, we out here trying to figure out life at 23. We
Right.
wilding. So at 23, and then this bomb gets dropped. What's happening in your life in this moment?
At that time, I was going through a lot, actually. I was really, really down at that point, at that age of 23. I was such low. I was suicidal. I was going through a lot. I was using drugs, all types of them, just to take me out of here because it just was so overwhelming. Life had become so overwhelming by the age of 23. But that's when God stepped in because I had to throw my hands up because you have to help me here because nobody else is trying to help me. Nobody else is trying to help me. But that's how I really found out who God was for myself. It was no longer my grandmother, my mother, or nobody else telling me that was the pivotal point when I really found who God was. And then on top of that, he defined me. Um, because he doesn't call me Kendall. He gave me a name, and that's who he sees me as. So, okay, it's just that I don't know. It was just it was a lot. But I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful to that it's almost like he changed my name. Like some things need to be blinded because Saul was going on the wrong direction, and he just blinded him, and then he became the greatest apostle. So some of the things maybe I just need, maybe I don't need to know. Maybe I do need to know, and maybe I don't. Because the reason my mother said that she did not tell me was that I was already experiencing emotional problems as a kid. She thought maybe it was too much for me to be able to, but I'm not that little kid anymore. I don't get it. I don't know why it has to be such a mystery around me and not me finding out who. It's almost like the and I'm not saying it, but it's almost like the devil do not want me to know who I am. Period. It's like he's done everything that he possibly can for an identity crisis
So
since
let
birth.
me let me and to what your mother said that of course I don't know what you were going through when you were smaller, but I do know that for the most part when adoptees are told younger, they deal with it a whole lot better.
Right.
And for me personally, I was told, I was little, like 6, 7, somewhere in there. So I grew up understanding what it meant, what it was, and it was no secret. It wasn't talked about all the time, but it was,
Right.
I knew. On the flip side, I know others who weren't told until like 18, 19, 20, and they were very angry. You, 23, angry because they felt like they had been lied to. So I think it's a disservice to the adoptee when you decide to not say, because then you also run the risk of another family member just blurting it out, as that's your case.
Yes.
And that's yeah. So for any adoptive parents that may be listening, tell them early. Tell them early.
Yes.
Really
Tell
tell them
them.
early.
I
Tell
just
them.
tell them. Just
Tell them
like have a
early.
conversation, and I know it might be hard from parents because my mother was never naturally able to have
Have
children,
children.
so that might be part of the reason as well of why she feels like I adopted you. I'm the one who cared for you. That should be. My parents are like the a closed case type of people. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the situation happened. Deal with it. Move on. Don't bring it
That's what.
back up. Don't talk about it.
That,
Just keep moving on. But I think that
as a
that's just the way
people,
that they grew up. That was
literally, that's what we do as a people, and then we pass that trauma down generation to generation
right.
until you get to a person like myself, and I'm like, it stops here.
Yeah, it
It
stops
stops right here.
because I
All of
I
it
actually
stops.
want to actually adopt some kids myself,
Do you?
but I never will be like my parents to me. You're going to know everything, and we're going to talk about
Absolutely.
everything. And
Everything.
I feel
Why?
like that the not talking and communicating with your kids is an issue. It's something that's wrong
For
with that.
sure. For sure. There's definitely something wrong with that. Even at your grown age, your parents are still not talking to you.
They don't. My parents don't talk as much as like how people could sit on the phone with hours and hours and talk to their parent. Not
Mm-hmm.
mine. I'll be lucky if I get 10 minutes.
That's a generational thing. That's a, yeah. And it's also not your burden to carry. Whatever they carry,
Yeah.
it ain't yours. It's so not yours. It's really
Right.
not. Why do you want to adopt?
To give somebody a life like I was afforded to be able to have because I wasn't they were well to do, so I didn't grow up and I never had no lights out and no food, and I had the latest game systems, Nintendos, everything that you could possibly have, but I want to be able to give somebody else that opportunity, whatever their situation is, to give them the love that they need and that they deserve. I just want to be able to do that too. I want to be able to love somebody the way that I was really loved.
Understood. I understand. I want to ask you one final question. No, I have
Hmm.
two more questions actually. My first question is, because I do know a little bit of your story concerning the molestation, and do you think that plays a part into why your parents don't want to talk to you about your adoption?
Because they didn't know about it until I got started doing stuff myself. So they didn't know that I was even, because I never talked to them until
Okay.
after the after effects. So they didn't know that the situations of the molestations were going on. But we really never talked about those situations either. Um, you know, during one of the videos and the comments, as people says, is that I had really good parents. My parents is the one who turned me in when I was doing those behaviors. It wasn't the other people. It was my own parents that did it. They turned me in because they something is wrong and we need to figure this out. So I have really good parents. It's just that we never talked about these things because I mean, how can you? It's a very difficult, and I'm sure, and I applaud them because I was a difficult child. I was bad, but And I could probably understand why they didn't have it, even have any more children because I my mother said it's like raising 10 in one.
Ooh, yeah, it sounds like you might have been a handful.
I was a handful. I was a handful. And I applaud them because I don't know how they did it. Some parents would have been very like, no, we got to give this child back. We not going to deal with this. And I told
But
my
then
mother,
your secret would have been out.
but then too, um, this is what I told my mother, and she makes her so mad. Because, sometimes I know how to, it makes her so mad when I say, um, your only job was to raise me. That's why I'm in your life because I'm the only one. So, that was your job to take care of me. She gets furious when I said that, but it's true. Sometimes in life that I couldn't have been nowhere else. God said that definitely for you to be able to do. That's why you're
Praise
able to
God. That's
handle it the
good.
way that you are.
Yeah.
Because I don't think nobody else could have possibly had. They would have checked out or said no, but they were. I told them y'all were built and made for me. That's it. That's what I tell them when I get mad and stuff like that. I was just made for you. That's all.
That's it. For
That's
sure.
it.
So you've got just to like to you've got two different stories. You've got this adoption story which is still unraveling. And
Unraveling.
then you've got
Yeah.
this molestation story, which I know we didn't dive into, and I know
Yeah.
the listeners are like, "What?" Tell
Yeah.
the people before we go. You had to say anything to anyone, any adoptee that's where you are currently, meaning
Mhm.
you don't know anything, you want to know, and you're still out here trying to get these answers. What would you say to them to encourage them?
I would tell them at the end of the day, have a relationship with God and trust Him and trust that He knows the steps of where you need to go and what you need to do in your own situation. But just trust God through the process. I think that life is here to teach us lessons, and so we just have to continue to never give up hope, never give up your faith, that one day some of us with the mysteries that go on, the truth will come out. And I have faith and hope that it will happen for me and it will happen for you. Just don't give up. Because I haven't given up. It's just that I'm trying to reposition in certain places to, advocate now for people, and that's one of the reasons why I ran for office as well. I ran for mayor of the city of Dallas because I want to be able to help. I can't say that. I want to be able to help certain people
Okay.
get
I
get
hear
what
you.
they get what they um what God really wants for them and not lack it. So I know it's been a fight for the enemy. Don't want that because it's some just dues to the culture. It's just that it's just like that. But I just pray that you find the strength to continue to go on even when, because I've hit almost every wall, but I'm not the person that gives up, and I don't give up easy. I just pray that it'll happen. So too, when I was also doing the search and there was I could not find this man's information. Like private investigation, and he said he could 99% get the information on biological, but he was like wanting to charge $1,500 to,
Hmm.
and he could actually said I can get it instantly, but it's gonna cost 15. But I said, Lord, um, if it's not for you to find out that route, I need you to
Let me know.
write to let me know or open up the door
Right.
where then I'm hoping that me just sharing my stories that somebody out there will hear it and really see that, and then I'm grateful because, and one of the things is that I want to meet them to tell you thank you because the person who I am today and the things that I'm inspiring to do, I just want to at least tell them thank you for that. Thank you for giving me life. But I thank you because look at where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever situations that you were going through at that time, all things work together for the good of
Sure.
them that love the Lord and are called
For
according to
sure.
his purpose. Whatever looked bad turned out to be a good ending. You know what I'm saying? It turned out better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that we did not, and I don't know if that was purposeful or, and you tell me, we didn't get into that molestation part. We didn't dig too deep there. Do you want the listeners to know about that? Or do you want them, is there someplace else you want to send them if they want to know about that? You tell
Yeah,
me.
they could go. I have the YouTube to really explain it, but it's not. I actually am an author, and I have 3 books, and all of my books talk about everything. I don't hold
Write it
nothing back in
down.
the book.
Okay.
My
So that's what
the,
we're going to do. We're going to tell people to go get your book because uh, I can't even get my words together. He lays it out. He
yeah,
is like, I am out here. This is what I did. This is what happened to me. This is
everything. I don't.
everything. He is spilling the tea.
So I always said that things that happen in this earth, I wanted to stay because I do want to go to heaven. So
Yes,
anything, I don't want to take nothing. So anything that is on this earth that I did not get caught for, I wrote it.
you
Even
wrote it.
things I didn't get caught for, I told it because I wanna live. I want to be free. I want to be free in my mind. I want to be free
Mm-hmm.
in my spirit to be able to live
Mm-hmm.
without having stuff over my head or things just keep. So I journal and I write, and they became books. So my first book is called Unconditional Love. It's by Kendal Richardson. It's Kendal and last name Richardson. So you could go to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, every bookstore. If you just put in unconditional love, and that's coming out of Revelations 3:19. For many as I love, I rebuke and chasten, therefore be zealous and repent. So my book is almost like a shedding of the sin nature of my life and the things that were not right, the things that I had to confess to doing in situations which molded me, the unconditional love of God. Because if God can love me through all of that, He definitely can love anybody else. Because baby, my story is just as crazy as a bat, wacky as a bat.
And so, for the Audible lovers like myself, are your books on Audible?
No, I need to do that, right?
You need to do
Not only
that.
that, the Lord told me to actually get my books translated into French and Spanish. He told me to do that. So that's going to be
You need
one of
to
my
do
next
it
projects
because I
in
am.
Audible.
I'm an Audible fan. I love
So I'm
listening to
gonna have to.
books.
I can get somebody else to
But
read it, right? Their voice might be so much better.
I'll read your book. We'll talk. Would we'll talk
I'll I'll
offline?
send, I'll send you a copy, and then my next book is called Turning Pain into Praise. You know how they a lot of people say turning pain into purpose, turning pain into power, turning pain into this and that. I'm the only person in the world with that title. Turning
Mm,
pain into praise.
okay.
Nobody else has that title in the world.
And what's the
Nobody.
third? And what's the third? You said 3 books, right? What's the third
So
book?
I co-wrote it with 15 other people, and it's by Robert Marshall. It's called Echoes, the voices of male survivors who overcame sexual
That one's
trauma.
on Audible. That one's on
Also,
Audible.
also that one is on Audible.
That one is on Audible because I just, as you said it, I'm typing. That one's on
Yeah.
Audible.
So now, so I share my story. But the thing that was the most is that I briefly spoke about the molestation, but I talked about what I did mostly in that book.
Mm,
Because I wanted people to understand that they think that people cannot be transformed or changed, or that they're always going to be this type of person, and that's not true. I purposely did it in that book to let people know. And so when I actually shared that part, some of the people even on the YouTube,
mm-hmm.
and that's Unfiltered Stories. The title is, oh my God, it is, I forgot the title of it.
We gotta figure out the title because all your links, I'm gonna definitely drop them in the
Yeah, it
description of this video. There will be here. Y'all
I'm
go
gonna
down and
send you the
click.
I'm gonna send you the
Send send it to me.
yeah, because I forgot the title of it. It's
We'll figure it out. Send it to
something
me.
about something about friend.
Okay. We'll figure it out. You'll send it to me. Everything that I don't know what just happened.
Uh,
Okay.
some Well, I don't
Somebody
see
called.
you. No,
You can
it
still hear
just
me.
went. Yeah,
It
I
just
can
went
hear
away.
you. It
Your
just went away.
picture.
Your picture, I don't see you, and I
I
don't see
can't see
me
you
either.
either. I can't see you either.
Yeah, this is the part where the say the the wickedness tries to come in to stop what's really meant to be said. But
What's
yeah,
meant
I'm
to be
telling
said.
right,
So what I
which
was
is
saying was you're gonna get all the links to me, email them to me. I'm gonna make sure they are in the description of when we drop this episode
yes.
for sure. And I don't know what's happening I don't know what's happening, but don't hang up. Just hang on 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead
I
and end this. Thank you so much for coming, but don't hang up just yet.
I
And
thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that it blesses someone. But my story
absolutely.
is very wacky, but it's very compelling to be able to share with somebody else because I love people and I want people to find out the truth about themselves. So whatever I got to
Mm,
do to help people find out the truth about who they really are and whose they really are, that's all that's and to help people know who God is, who he is. That's my whole agenda.
mm, I love that. I
And my
definitely will
entire
follow
agenda
that.
is to let people know who he is through my trials and tribulations, through my struggles, through my ups and downs, through everything. Not be because I'm no longer ashamed of those things because they help me mature to be able to help somebody else face those because some people went through some horrendous things in their lives,
Yeah.
but I can't judge nobody and I can't point my finger at nobody, but what I can do is be a person that can listen and can't judge you because of the things that I did. So
Mm,
if you're able to share some of the secrets and things that are going on, because we're supposed to do that to one another and not broadcast, but people can't get free because they don't trust people that they can talk to about some of these things. And I ask God for that, to be able to help people get free that have these secrets and different things going on, to be able to share it with somebody, to be able to get it off of their chest. And I hope to be that burden bearer for
mm.
millions of people because I can handle it.
You know what?
I can
I
handle it.
can't I can't even follow that. I can't even follow that. But like I said, don't hang up. But on that note, family, I'm gonna end this episode. I will drop all his links in the description. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, family.
Bye bye.
Journey, journey on, journey, journey on. You need a pie, what they get good? Oh yeah, what is the one?